Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Crack a Pack a Day. Every day, I'm going to open a booster pack of Magic the Gathering cards and evaluate the contents, choosing one of them to take, as if I were taking part in a draft and this was pack one, pick one. It's Throwback Thursday here on Crack a Pack a Day, so today we're going to open a pack of Gatecrash. The second set of the Return to Ravnica block, Gatecrash could be drafted as part of the full block or by itself, which is what we're doing here. Like Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash features 5 two-color guilds: Orzhov in white and black, Dimir in blue and black, Gruul in red and green, Boros in red and white, and Simic in green and blue. Any other color pair just won't have any kind of support. There's no mana fixing and no gold cards, so it's essential to stick to one of these color pairs. Also, Gatecrash is an extremely aggressive and fast format, so it's important to prioritize early drops. Even if you're not an aggro deck, you need to survive the onslaught of aggressive decks so that you can play your better cards. With all that out of the way, let's open the pack up and take a look. Our first card is Warmind Infantry, a 2/3 elemental soldier for 2 and a red. It has Battalion, so if you attack with it and at least 2 other creatures, then it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Warmind Infantry is an okay creature. A 2/3 for 3 isn't great, but it's essential to have some early drops to interact with your opponent. In the Boros deck, this isn't an especially high pick, but in the slower Gruul deck, it gets a bit better, simply because you need to have those early drops. It's not a great card, but depending on the other cards in the pack, it might be a necessary evil to take this first. Hydra Form is an instant for a green and a blue. Target land becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with flying until end of turn. Whilst a 3/3 with flying for 2 would be a powerful card, you only get it for 1 turn. Since the land is already in play, it doesn't even help with Evolve, the Simic set mechanic. I view this as a removal spell come finisher. If you need a surprise blocker, then this can turn a land into a 3-power blocker. Alternatively, if you need to deal 3 damage to finish off your opponent, then you can. Unfortunately, I just don't find this card all that useful or powerful, so I probably won't be taking it first. Ruination Worm is a 7/6 worm for 4 red-green. With few exceptions, 6 drops are all but unplayable in Gatecrash. By the time you've gotten to 6 mana, then there's a reasonable chance that you've already been overrun by your opponent's earlier drops. A vanilla 7/6 just isn't good enough to consider taking for the cost of locking yourself into Gruul with pack one pick one. I won't be taking this card. Slate Street Ruffian is a 2/2 human warrior for 2 and a black. When it becomes blocked, then the defending player discards a card. Despite being a 2/2 for 3, you've got to prioritize early drops. The fact that it also can disrupt your opponent when you're attacking them is a nice bonus, but ultimately doesn't make this a good card. If I have to take this pack one pick one, then I won't be happy, but sometimes you just have to do that in Gatecrash draft. Orzhov Guildgate is a land with the gate subtype that enters the battlefield tapped. It can tap for white or black mana. The Guildgates are the easiest way to fix your mana in Gatecrash. They enter the battlefield tapped, but otherwise grant you both colors of mana that you need. The gate subtype is referenced on a couple of other cards, but for the most part doesn't mean much. Taking this first means that you can possibly splash white cards into a Dimir deck or black cards into a Boros deck, though I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. You can take this first in an otherwise weak pack, but you probably won't be happy. Adaptive Snapjaw is a 6/2 lizard beast for 4 and a green. It has Evolve. As a 6/2, this card will most likely trigger Evolve for every creature you have on the board, as it's unlikely that any of them have power 6 or greater. The toughness 2 seems like a bit of a downside, but it does allow you to trigger Evolve on it with toughness 3 and greater creatures, so the downside actually has a hidden upside. This is a good role player in a Simic deck, but it's not the kind of card I want to take first. Bomber Corps is a 1/2 human soldier for 1 and a red. It has a battalion ability, so whenever it and 2 or more other creatures attack, then it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Despite being a 2-drop, this isn't an especially good card. It will fill holes in your curve if you need it to, but overall it has a lower power level than a lot of the other 2-drops in Gatecrash. In an aggressive Boros deck, you'll probably end up with one of these, but you shouldn't prioritize it as there are likely better cards. That said, it's still a 2-drop, so the possibility of taking it first isn't too much of a stretch. Midnight Recovery is a sorcery for 3 and a black. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. It has Cipher. As a card that lets you get things back from your graveyard, Midnight Recovery isn't anything special. It's expensive and only lets you get back creatures. It does have Cipher, so if you can cipher this onto an evasive creature, then you can potentially get multiple uses out of it. But I just don't think that adds a lot of value, because your creature is vulnerable to removal and bounce. Overall, this isn't a great card, and you probably shouldn't put it in your deck. I won't be taking it first. Last Thoughts is a sorcery for 3 and a blue. Draw a card. It has Cipher. A lot of the things I said about Midnight Recovery count here too. It's expensive, and ciphering it onto a creature makes it less reliable than you'd like. The upside is a little higher though, as drawing cards is a powerful effect. I'd imagine that you'd want to draw at least 3 cards off of this before you felt you got your mana's worth. Last Thoughts is a reasonable card in a Dimir or Simic deck with evasive creatures, but it's a little too situational for me to want to take it first. Our first uncommon is Illness in the Ranks, an enchantment for black. Creature tokens get -1/-1. This card has such a narrow focus, only affecting creature tokens, that it can't be viewed as anything more than a sideboard card. If your opponent shows you a number of powerful cards that produce tokens in Game 1, then consider bringing this out of the sideboard for Games 2 and 3. But there's no good reason at all to think about putting this in your main deck. I won't be picking this first. Simic Charm is an instant for a green and a blue. When you cast it, you pick one of the 3 modes. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn, or return target creature to its owner's hand. Of the Gatecrash charms, Simic Charm is probably the best. All 3 of its modes are useful at most stages of the game, and don't require much setup to get a lot out of them. A Giant Growth for 2 is a little overcosted, but still useful. Granting hexproof can nullify a number of targeted removal spells, and paying 2 to bounce a creature at instant speed isn't too bad. Overall, this is probably the most powerful card in the pack so far. I'm a little hesitant to pick a gold card first, but this one isn't too bad a choice. Crowned Saratalk is a 4/3 Rhino for 3 and a green. It has Trample, and grants Trample to all creatures you control with a +1/+1 counter on them. This is a reasonable card. It scores okay on the vanilla test, and makes up for what it lacks there with Trample. The second ability will obviously work best in a Simic deck, so Gruul decks probably won't want to think about picking this too highly. It's a solid card, but I think it's outclassed by the Simic Charm. Our rare is a mythic. We've got Oralia the Warleader, a 3/4 legendary angel for 2 red, white. It has flying, vigilance, haste, and when it attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Whilst I've previously said that 6-drops are all but unplayable in Gatecrash, that kind of goes out the window for Oralia. She's powerful enough that she is worth playing. The ability to give you 2 combat phases a turn means that you can beat your opponent down twice as quickly. On her own, she's got a good body in the air that can attack on the turn you cast her and then attack again. With the Vigilance, she can even block your opponent's creatures too. Overall, I feel Oralia the Warleader is a powerful card and is probably going to be my pick here. We've also got a foil mountain, a regular version of the same mountain, and an ooze token. Right then, let's take a look at the pack as a whole. To be honest, there's only one card I'm considering taking here. Oralia the Warleader has a lot of power and is possibly one of the textbook definitions of a gold card that's worth taking first and sticking with. Obviously, if your next few picks can't support you in Boros, then jump ship and move on to a different guild. But if you pick up even a halfway decent Boros deck, then Oralia will likely do some good work in it. Oralia the Warleader is my pick. And that's about all we've got time for today. If you disagree with my choice, then please let me know in the comments below, on Facebook, or on Twitter. Have a good day now!